Welcome back. Her accusation against her powerful brother-in-law was stunning.
Rebekah Chatfield accusing her brother-in-law Lee Chatfield of sexual assault.
And the former Michigan House Speaker will not be facing any charges. Joining us now, Rebekah and her attorney, James White. Thank you both so much for joining us this evening.
Of course.
So how did you feel, Rebekah, about the AG's office saying they closed the sexual assault allegation against Lee?
It was a very big surprise, and to be honest, I was not expecting it based on the evidence and proof I would say that I have given. And when they told me that no charges were going to be dropped against him, my entire childhood and my life leading up to the last 3 years just flashed before my eyes. And I felt it was very unjust, not accurate based on the mental, physical, psychological, emotional abuse that he did put me through the years of my adulthood, but more importantly, the years of my childhood and throughout my entire education, attending the church and the school where he taught, where he was the athletic director, and where his father as well was the owner and pastor and teacher at that school as well.
Rebekah, can you talk to us about what went into the decision for you to come forward?
I was coming out of a place of pure survival, and the longer that I waited to tell someone what was happening to me, the more power I felt that Lee was gaining. And so right before I reported, I was not doing well. I had to go see a friend, and I went and visited her, and I was not planning on telling her what had happened to me. But the morning of my flight, I finally broke down and I said, hey, this is what's been happening to me. And it was based purely out of survival for what he had put me through. I had little knowledge about the financial side, but more importantly, the abuse that he put me through. And so I was able to confide in a close friend, and she was able to guide me through the reporting process, because growing up in the cult that I grew up in, they did not teach us the importance of speaking up and reporting. And so when I had reported, I was going into that completely blind. And so, yeah, it was just based out of surviving.
Well, thank you for sharing all of that. Is there any solace in knowing that he could still face justice just for completely different charges?
I am grateful, very grateful, because the charges that were announced were not a surprise to me based off of what I had seen, heard throughout the years. It was not surprising, but at the same time, I still feel like it is not relatable in a sense to what he put me through, as well as possible many others. And so I am very grateful that they do have charges right now, that they can, move forward and start this process, because it is not okay on any level. But I don't know, I guess that's a different
James, can you tell us what happens from here?
Well, right now we're just trying to make sure that Rebekah's okay and her family's okay, which has been our goal for the last 2.5 years. There's been a lot of talk about books and lawsuits. We've done none of that. The only thing we've tried to do is cooperate with law enforcement. The Attorney General got this one wrong. You're not allowed to have sex with students, period. And we have yet to receive any really intelligible explanation as to why, under these circumstances, it's different. They've been transparent in the sense where they've been very gracious, and we knew about yesterday's decision before it was announced publicly, and we appreciate that. And I'm politically aligned, and I would consider myself a political friend of the Attorney General, but this ball got dropped. And the problem, the message that's been sent is at least the message that I received from a particular assistant attorney general, and I just don't need to name her because she was extremely gracious in attempting to explain her decision. But because she was a babysitter at some point in time, and then ultimately a student, and then this, I don't call it a relationship when you're a teacher and you're an administrator, and quite frankly a pole barn of a school, that you are in a position of authority, and that makes you culpable in the event you take advantage of that position, and he did that. And somehow in their explanation it came out to me that because she had been a babysitter of the family, which was in large part because her father was, he was ill, and she didn't have a lot of options. And this is what predators do. They find the vulnerable kids. And so I guess the message, and I don't want to be disrespectful to the AG because I do respect her, but I think this decision needs to be rethought, because if their position is because a child or a young person has a relationship with a family for whatever reason, a babysitter, a neighbor, and so on, that somehow negates the their responsibility for their behavior once they become in a position of authority is extraordinarily scary for me, and it's consistent, quite frankly, with what we've seen in Michigan for a very long time. So when you ask what comes next, we have been and continue to be in communication with Senate Majority Leader, the governor's office, and other members of the legislature to address these issues so that Michigan is not, quite frank, to keeping kids safe, number one, but this is an embarrassment, and this is an abomination of the law that says that kids can't have sex with teachers. That is just, there's no gray area there. Um, and they created one yesterday, and I still have yet to see a concrete explanation as to why that is.
Unfortunately, we have run out of time, but we thank you both for joining us. Rebekah, thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you for having us.
Yes, thank you.